Hi everyone, welcome to Home Talk. I'm Holly of hollygrace.ca. I'm so excited to be sharing this episode with you of my fall pumpkin tic tac toe board. This is a great little DIY that I came up with last year and it's one of my favorites. You can display it on your coffee table in your home or anywhere really where you want a fun piece of fall decor that's also interactive. So let's jump right into the project. To begin our project, we are going to start off with this wood artist panel. Now, I just got this at my local dollar store, and the measurements are 12 inches by 16 inches. You can feel free to get really creative with this step and use whatever you can think of. You just need some sort of a tray-like material. So maybe like an old drawer or anything like that. Really feel free to get creative and use whatever you like for this step. Now I'm going to be staining just the frame of my panel. I want to leave the inside bottom portion of it. I'm going to paint it a different color actually. So I'm going to tape off my edges here so that the stain doesn't seep into the middle of my board. So I'm just going to tape off right in the corner. When using painter's tape, I always like to make sure that I cut the end of the painter's tape in a straight line rather than ripping it, because I find that I get nice crisp clean edges this way. So when I put this tape in the corner here, I want to make sure that that goes directly into the corner and no paint is going to seep through. We want this board to look as neat as possible. So to stain the frame of my wood panel, I'm going to be using Varathane Wood Stain in the shade Provincial. And if you guys follow me here on HometalkTV and you've seen past episodes where I use stain, you'll already know this handy hack. For those of you that are new though, it's really important. About 10 minutes before I'm going to stain, I take my container of stain and I just put it on my work surface upside down and I leave it like this for 10 minutes. And the reason why I do this is because all the pigment of the color sits at the bottom of the can and collects down there. So just simple stirring sometimes doesn't get all that pigment. So just leave it upside down for about 10 minutes before you begin your project, and it gives that pigment a chance to blend in with the stain. But you do always want to make sure that you still give it a good stir. Now that we've let our stain sit for the good 10 minutes, I'm going to stir it here. Now you will also notice that I taped off the whole inside of my panel. You don't really have to do that. You could leave that open part open and just do the edges. But just because of stain spraying and flying everywhere, I just want to be safe than sorry. So I'm just going to pour my stain in my dish here. And I'm just using a foam brush here to apply my stain. Now my wood panel is a very raw, unfinished wood, so it's soaking in the stain quite nicely here. So I'm probably only gonna do one coat on my frame here. But if you want a nice dark, rich color, you can always do multiple coats of the stain. So we wanna make sure that we do the whole frame top, and then you also wanna make sure that you do these inside pieces as well. So we're just going to make sure we stain that ledge there. Now again, feel free to get creative with this, and if you want to paint your frame instead of stain, you really can do whatever you like. You can pick colors that match your home, anything you really like. This is all up to you here, this step. Now we also want to make sure that we stain the back of the board, even though it's the bottom and no one will see it. We still just want to make sure that we have a nice finished look to our piece. Once the stain is dry, I'm going to remove the painter's tape from the bottom of the tray. For the inside of my board, I'm going to use this Decor Vintage Effect Wash paint in the shade Beige. Decor Vintage Effect Wash paint is a paint-like stain, so you brush it on just like you would with any ordinary paint. And then once you've brushed it on, you just wipe it away like a stain with a lint-free cloth. I like this paint because I can add a little bit of beigey color to my piece and still get that stained look and have the natural looking wood show through underneath. After applying the Vintage Effect Wash, I decided to add a layer of this linen white wood stain from Varathane just over top of the beige to add a nice dimensional look to the wood and give it just a little pop of white. To make our pieces for our tic-tac-toe game, we are going to be using these plastic cheap little pumpkins. I picked mine up at the dollar store. I don't like how shiny and plastic and fake they look, so we're going to give them a bit of a makeover. So you need 10 pumpkins total, 5 pieces for each player. So what we're going to do is we are going to remove the little stems because I don't like those. They're plastic and really cheap looking, and we want our little tic-tac-toe board to look a little more high-end. So what I'm going to do also is I'm going to give these a coat of primer with some spray paint. So I'm going to take these little wooden barbecue skewers and I'm just going to stick them into the ends of my pumpkins, and then I'm going to push the pumpkin into this piece of styrofoam here. And this is just a real easy way for me to spray these pumpkins in one shot all together, and the styrofoam will keep them standing up, and we can paint these really fast. So I'm going to take these outside to spray paint them. So to prime my pumpkins, I use this Krylon Color Master Primer Spray Paint, and I just find priming easy with the spray paint, just I can do it all in one shot and then it's done. With our pumpkins all primed and dried and ready to go, we can now begin to paint them. So I'm going to do them one at a time here, and I am going to leave them on the skewer. It's just easier this way. Now, to give our pumpkins some definition, to make sure that they don't have that cheap plastic look, we're going to start giving this pumpkin some character and definition in the lines of the pumpkin. So I'm going to be using this chalky finish paint from Decor in the shade Rustic. So all I do with a nice little angled brush here is I just go along the lines of the pumpkin, just painting all along in the line and just bringing it from the top of the pumpkin all the way down to the bottom. And you're going to continue going along the pumpkin until you've done every single indented line. Now, this doesn't have to be perfect. Don't worry about your paint lines being absolutely perfect. This is just to give it a bit of definition underneath of the top color. Now you can also go in and along the top as well. Paint the brown around here too. So now that we've done the brown, we are going to take this chalky finish paint as well from Decor in the shade Heritage. And then using a foam pouncer, I've just put a bunch of the paint on there where you are going to pounce this over our pumpkin here. You don't want a brush stroke effect, so that's why I'm using the pouncer to kind of pounce the paint on, because I don't want those brush strokes. I want this to look like a real rustic pumpkin. Then when the paint is a little bit tacky and almost dry, I just take a clean dry rag and I just kind of grab the pumpkin a little bit and just kind of take off a bit of the heavy paint. This also gives the paint a very distressed look and reveals more of the brown underneath, because I don't want a very heavy painted pumpkin. I want this to look as natural as possible. When we go up close there, how detailed our pumpkin is. And then we're going to continue this painting technique for 4 more of the pumpkins. For the remaining 5 pumpkins, we're going to go with something a little bit lighter. So I have this chalky finish paint from Decor, and this shade is Restore. So it's a bit of a lighter brown. So this is what we're going to use for the grooves on the lighter pumpkins. So I'm just going to take a small brush and I'm just going to paint the lines of this one in the same way that we did the orange ones, but just with a very lighter brown. And you'll notice that I'm making the lines a little bit finer this time and a little more defined. Because we are working with a lighter color, we can't go as heavy with this paint because it will stand out more than with the orange. So these lines we want to be a little bit more delicate with and a little bit more refined and go fine in the lines on the pumpkin. And then I have this shade called Happy Hour. This one is from Country Chic Paint, And this one is just a very nice light, like almost seafoam blue. And this is the one we're gonna use for our light pumpkins here. So I'm just gonna use a foam brush. And again, I'm just gonna kind of dab it on all over the pumpkin. And then once I have the entire pumpkin covered, we're gonna let that set for just a few minutes. We're gonna let it get tacky. Okay, and now that our pumpkin is just a little bit tacky, we're gonna do the same thing we did with the orange ones, and we're just gonna dab off the paint just a little bit into a clean rag to give it that little rustic look.
To make the stems for my pumpkins, I found a large stick outside and I cut it down into smaller pieces using some garden shears. I then took the pieces and stuck them into the styrofoam pumpkins.
Now to finish off our tic-tac-toe board, we are going to make the lines for the tic-tac-toe game. So what I have here is just a long piece of doweling that I got from the home improvement store. This is 5/16 by 48 inches. Now you can use whatever thickness you like here, just as long as you have enough room for your pumpkins in between. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut my doweling down to fit my board. So I'm just going to take a measuring tape and I'm just going to measure the inside frame here so it looks like it's 15 inches. So we're going to cut our piece of doweling down to 15 inches here. To cut my dowel, I'm just using a pair of wire cutters. Mine is thin enough that I can cut right through it with these. And then before I put my dowel in place, I'm just going to put the pumpkins on the board so I can see exactly where I need to put it. So right there is good.
I repeated this process to complete the full tic-tac-toe board using the pumpkins as guides to make sure that I lined them up correctly. Once I had all my dowels cut and ready to go, I decided that I did want to stain them the same color as the frame of the board, so I used the same provincial shade stain from Verithane to stain the dowels. Once my stained dowels were dry, I just had to put the tic-tac-toe board together. You will notice that I don't use glue at all to hold the dowels in place. Mine I cut snug enough so that they fit very tight, so I didn't think glue was necessary. If you want to add a bit of hot glue to the ends, you certainly can. With my board all finished, all I have to do now is set it up in my home. This tic-tac-toe board is a fun and interactive DIY that you can try yourself, and feel free to put your own spin on it. Use your own colors that would suit and match your own home. I like to set mine up here in my kitchen. In the morning, the kids like to play a little fun game of tic-tac-toe while they're waiting for their breakfast, and it's just a nice piece of fall decor that I can have in my home that other people can also enjoy as well. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this DIY. I hope that you'll give it a try, and feel free to check me out on social media at Holly Grace Blog, and don't forget to visit my site hollygrace.ca for more great DIY ideas.
Thank you so much for watching Home Talk, and we'll see you next time.